Hello and welcome to 10-Minute Tabletop, where we cover the biggest stories in tabletop gaming from the past week in 10 minutes or less so you can get back to playing the game. I'm Devin.
And I'm Darren.
And here are the biggest stories from the past week.
Our first story today is Critical Role released its own membership streaming service called Beacon this week. While episodes will still release on YouTube and Twitch, Beacon's website serves as a central location for most of all of Critical Role's current and future content. But, Campaign 1, Vox Machina, and part of Campaign 2, Mighty 9 still exist on Geek and Sundry. So on Beacon, members get same-day access to new episodes and podcasts without ads, exclusive behind-the-scenes videos, early access to new series and live event tickets, discounts for online merch, and an invite to a members-only Discord.
Beacon will also be releasing highly edited down older episodes of Critical Role that are really easily to consume. We're talking about an hour-long episodes, hour and a half, which would make it easier for a lot of people to catch up. Now, the membership's $5.99 a month or $60 for the entire year. But why is this important? Decoupling from streaming services is incredibly important, especially when your media grows as large as it is. Now, Critical Role avoided the issue that Watcher had when they decided to gate everything behind a paid wall. But Dropout has done this. It's been really, really well. The most important thing that I don't think a lot of people are talking about here is once they have a reoccurring revenue model that they can show, that opens them up to huge amounts of VC investing. You could say, look, we have all these viewers and that's great, but how do you monetize that? If they have a current monetization platform, that will make it a lot easier for them to get investing for video games, for new shows, for all sorts of things.
Yeah, and it's just a smart move in general to take control of all of their content instead of, like you said, being on the whims of all of these different sites. They originally had that partnership with Geek and Sundry. While nothing bad happened, it's like when they had to go to their own YouTube channel, then they got to start over, then they got to build up that audience again. And now they just have one central place. This is where you go. This is where you get it. And I also just think it's smart that they're adapting to this day's current actual play space where it's all right, 2015, we had our 4-hour streams, but if you want to get in and catch up for everything that's happened in almost 10 years of content, we're going to edit it down. We're going to make it easy for you. Bring in as many people as we can.
So I'm really excited to see what kind of numbers we see and what kind of growth Critical Role gets out of this. They're following that kind of Dropout playbook. I think it's great for them. So I can't wait to see what happens next. And in our next story, we're all talking about SRDs, System Reference Documents. Wizards of the Coast has revealed plans to release the SRD 5.2 in 2025, along with their new book release. The SRD is a set of core rules for the game that's released under Creative Commons, which allows third-party creators to make certain types of content without getting into legal trouble. The SRD 5.2 will release in 2025 after the new Monster Manual has hit store shelves, and the updated SRD will coexist along with the SRD 5.1, meaning creators can continue to make things for the original 5e rule set, or they can adopt the new rules, or they can create for both.
Yeah, and Cobalt Press also announced its own SRD release. The Black Flag Reference Document, or BFRD, a little bit of a mouthful, went live this week as well. This allows for free access to the lineages, classes, monsters, and more from Cobalt Press's take on 5e. So why is this important? Well, Wizards of the Coast said they would do this back a year ago during the OGL crisis, and they are delivering on that promise that they made to the fans. And this move also hopefully allows for third-party creators to continue creating content for the 5e ecosystem, which ultimately benefits D&D.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I wonder how many people are going to start making content for Kobold Press. I mean, that's a huge thing. I mean, Kobold Press used to be we make content for 5e using SRD. Now they're the IP owner, and they're letting people make content off of their SRD. So and if they can see a lot of people do that, that should show successful for them, because that was the thing, right? D&D, letting us make content is good for you. So if Kobold Press sees a lot of people do it for them, that should also in turn be successful.
Yeah. Our last story for today, a D&D Dead by Daylight collab has been revealed. So a horror video game, Dead by Daylight, hinted at its next chapter and its D&D theme. So a short teaser video on Twitter shows what appears to be a beholder locked behind a cage, roaring to escape. And the Dungeons & Dragons logos then appears, telling the curious that they can soon learn more. So details are set to come out on May 14th, which is when Dead by Daylight does its anniversary stream.
Why is this important? Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro said, we're going deep into licensing, we're going deep into digital, and this is exactly that.
Yep.
What's really interesting is this does feel like a departure from the typical kind of Dungeons & Dragons game, but it still has that a collaborative aspect in the fact that like there's 4 survivors played by people and 1 monster played by another person. So it has that kind of around the table kind of collaborative play.
Yeah, and that's just like smart partnership, right? It's like if you have a game that already like is hinged around a community that likes collaborative gameplay, it's like, well, do we have the collaborative game for you? And if you like monsters, then hold on, what's this? The monster manual, and just every D&D monsters and all the stuff you could ever dream of to pick from.
I am really curious to see if there's going to be more than just the Beholder. And actually, viewer, I would love to ask you, what monsters do you think would be great to see in a Dead by Daylight game that is the Dungeons and Dragons?
What would scare you the most?
But the other thing that I think is interesting here that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about is Hasbro owns the characters from Baldur's Gate 3. Could we see, when you choose what survivors you're going to play as, could we see Karlach, Shadowheart, Gale, Hazlitt? Could we see any of these characters as the survivors that you're playing as in this kind of new chapter?
Yeah, and that's just, again, more smart partnership. D&D is trying to solidify that familiarity with its lore, with all these partnerships, and that now includes Baldur's Gate 3. So it would be really cool to play that. Well, I mean, I'm not a horror game girl. So you'll have to play for me, Devin. You like that scary stuff.
Well, it's great too, because I assume there's going to be a lot of content. There's so many actual plays out there. There's so many people that are making content around D&D or tabletop. I could see a lot of people just going onto Twitch and making, streaming, playing the D&D chapter of Dead by Daylight. So I think that will be really, really successful. And that's everything we have for you this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you want to support the show, the best way to do that is head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/Total Party Chill. And if you can't support us there, go ahead and make sure you tell your friends, your family, or your enemies about the show. It helps us a ton. Thanks so much. Have a great week. Bye.
Bye.